Hello everyone and welcome back to Scandinavian Design 101. I'm Sanna.
I'm Andreas and we're two Swedes and we love design.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Oh.
And today we're going to give you an introduction to the life and work of the Swedish designer Carl Malmsten. And if you ask a common Swede to name one furniture designer, Malmsten is likely the name mentioned.
Yeah.
But
By old people.
Yeah, by old people at least. But internationally, he's not as famous, but some of you might have heard about him. And Carl Malmsten was born in Stockholm in December of 1888. And his full name was actually Charlie Per Henrik Malmsten. But already at the age of 13, he wrote a letter to his mother declaring, "I will sometimes, when I remember, call myself Carl Malmsten," and the name stuck with him for the rest of his life. And he was born into a wealthy family. His mother, Ines, was the daughter of a French master chef who was the founder of the well-known Grand Hotel in Stockholm. And his father, also called Carl but spelled with a K instead of a C, was a medical doctor. And the early years of Carl's childhood was idyllic, but this changed when the parents got divorced when Carl was 9 years old. And he and his two siblings came to live with the father, and Ines was only allowed to meet her children 1 week a year.
Oh.
That's not much.
No, that sounds like bullshit.
Yeah.
Carl's father considered high education to be the key to a successful and happy life. He sounds great, huh? And already at the age of 10, Carl was sent to Germany and England to study language on the holidays. He tried to live up to his father's expectations, but felt highly uncomfortable in school.
Yeah, who didn't?
Yeah, just what I was thinking. Only a month prior to graduation, he suddenly went to the principal's office and declared, "I'll never come here again and let you destroy me." My thoughts exactly. His father got furious and immediately called a
psychiatrist.
Yeah, psychiatrist who declared the boy insane and sent him to a mental institution.
That's nice.
Had the father bought the person?
Well, he was a doctor, and he perhaps that was someone he knew.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
He was soon given a bill of health on the condition that he finished school. So he did, and soon he even began studying economics, but dropped out of school after only a few months.
Yeah.
The official reason was a bad memory. Okay. Suddenly, the young Carl had no idea what to do with his life. Further studies was no longer an option, and design wasn't anything he had considered working with, even though he since long had an interest in arts and crafts. As a child, he often visited Skansen, an open-air museum showcasing houses, farmsteads, and animals from every part of the country. And this was a great place to learn about traditional crafts and design.
Yes. And one day, when strolling around in Stockholm, he saw a sign saying, "We are hiring carpenters." And by chance, he went into the workshop of Pelle Jönsson and was hired as an apprentice. And Carl really enjoyed working with his hands, but found the furniture produced in the workshop to be ugly and outdated. So Carl came to work for Jönsson for 1.5 years, but illness made him quit. Escaping the cold Swedish climate, he traveled to Egypt studying local architecture as well as ancient artifacts. And back in Stockholm, he built a small carpentry workshop in his mother's apartment and started producing furniture of his own. And his customers were mainly friends and family. "Please, ma'am, buy this chair. I need some money."
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
In 1916, Carl published his first book, a short publication on the subject craftsmanship. According to him, traditional crafts had to be defended and industrial production avoided when possible. He wasn't against all industrial production, but a close collaboration between the artists and the factories was essential. Machines, he wrote, lacks imagination as well as the smooth touch of a human hand.
Yeah.
In this matter, he was a great opponent to the growing modernist movement. The practical tasks of arts and crafts should, according to him, be an integrated part of school for all children. His own bad experiences in school made him want to change the whole educational system, but we'll get back to that later.
Yeah. But his great breakthrough as a furniture designer came in 1916 when he was awarded first and second prize in a design competition. At the time, a new city hall was built in Stockholm, and the architect Ragnar Östberg had designed a large brick building inspired by Mediterranean architecture, as well as traditional Nordic Gothic style and Islamic art. And the participants in the competition was to design furniture suitable for this impressive building. And suddenly the young Malmsten became a well-known figure on the Swedish design scene. And he was commissioned to design a long range of furniture for the city hall, and now let's take a look at some of them.
Already back in 1913, Carl had met the young teacher Siv Munthe, a teacher.
Yeah.
The two fell in love, but back then Carl didn't have enough income or stable living conditions to propose to her. The success with the city hall 3 years later suddenly changed this, and the two got married in 1917.
Yeah.
The couple soon moved to Bergshamra, just north of Stockholm, and in the following 9 years they got 5 children. Best known of them is probably the painter Egil and the designer Vidar.
Yeah. The 1920s was a hectic time for the rising star Malmsten. In 1923 he was hired to create a room at the Ulriksdal Castle just north of Stockholm. And the project was a wedding gift for the Swedish Prince Gustav Adolf and Louise Mountbatten. And these furniture were made in a mixture of Swedish 18th century Gustavian style and the 1920s neoclassicism. Malmsten also made furniture for the Stockholm Concert Hall and not least the so-called Matchstick Palace. Another important milestone in the career of Malmsten was the 1925 Paris World's Fair. In the Swedish pavilion designed by Carl Bergsten, furniture by Malmsten and a colleague Carl Hörvik was exhibited to the international audience. And we're going to show you some of these interiors now because they are really magnificent.
Yeah. In 1927, Malmsten's old wish to reform the educational system resulted in the private elementary school Olofsskolan he founded together with his wife Siv. In contrast to traditional schools filled with authoritarian teachers and theoretical knowledge, Olofsskolan was to focus on practical knowledge and alternative styles of education. 3 years later, Olofsskolan Verkstad, the workshop of Olofsskolan, was founded where the young student learned the knowledge of joinery. The workshop shared premises with the legendary Swedish cabinet maker Hjalmar Jackson, and this was a huge possibility for the students to learn how to produce advanced furniture by hand.
Yeah.
Economic difficulties forced the school to shut down in 1941, but the workshop lives on, nowadays called Carl Malmsten Store.
Yeah. And in 1930, a huge exhibition was held in Stockholm. And the so-called Stockholm exhibition was arranged by the Society of Arts and Crafts in collaboration with the city of Stockholm, and was the great breakthrough of functionalism in whole Scandinavia. Inspiration came from Central Europe, and not least the Die Wohnung exhibition held in Stuttgart 3 years earlier. The old and traditional was to be scrapped on behalf of function and modern materials. It was hardly a surprise Malmsten didn't appreciate these radical ideas, and soon a conflict emerged between Malmsten and the intellectual leader of the fair, Gregor Paulsson. And in the press, the two opponents held a verbal battle arguing for their positions. And despite this, Malmsten came to attend the exhibition and designed in total 3 different interiors.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, but I think he wanted to show his furniture.
Yeah.
In contrast to most other architects, Malmsten exhibited exclusive and rather traditional furniture made from expensive materials, and not this tubular steel and crap. Now, yeah.
All the commotion in the press made Malmsten even more famous, and the conflict between traditionalists and functionalists continued after the exhibition. Pure functionalism never managed to attract the broad masses in Sweden. During the 30s, the functionalists got somewhat more traditional and the traditionalists more modern. Over the years, the two emerged into the aesthetic often referred to as Swedish Modern.
Yeah.
Malmsten started exhibiting not only exclusive furniture, but also simpler and cleaner ones, free from ornamentation and wooden inlays. In 1934, he exhibited furniture at the Liljevalchs Art Hall together with colleagues like Estrid Eriksson and Märta Mås Fjätterström. At this exhibition, he displayed several quite modern-looking pieces, among them the large easy chair Jättepaddan, the giant toad.
Yeah.
It's still in production and must be considered a rather timeless piece of design.
Yeah.
And it's a good name.
Yeah, it's a very good name. And I'm not sure if it looks like a giant toad, but no. And in 1930, Malmsten had rented a 3-story building in Stockholm together with the textile designer Märta Mås Fjätterström, from where he ran the business. And he kept the facility for 10 years until the building was demolished and the business moved to a huge premises at the noble address Strandvägen. The Malmsten Store was located in this building until last year, when it moved to a building nearby. And the collaboration with Märta Mås Fjätterström continued to her death in 1941, and after this Malmsten helped save her company and transformed it into a limited company called AB MMF.
During World War II, there were no big international exhibitions for obvious reasons. Malmsten made a living from several large commissions, among them the offices of the chocolate company Marabou, the most popular chocolate in Sweden.
Yes.
Serial-produced furniture were mixed with textiles by Märta Mås Fjätterström. Interesting to note is the sofa, is it called Marabou?
Yeah.
Oh, made for this commission. In the last year of the war, Malmsten was hired to design a range of serial-produced furniture for Nordiska Kompaniet, and the traditionalist Malmsten was most certainly moving in a modernist direction.
Yes. In the 1950s, industrial serial production was the dominating way of producing furniture, and Malmsten had to adapt to this. In 1950, eager to find high-quality producers, Malmsten traveled to the province Småland, where we live, and where most of the factories actually were located. He visited a long range of companies and chose 13 of them to be his nyckelverkstäder, the key factories, where all of his furniture would be produced. And best known of them were probably O.H. Sjögren, a company still producing upholstered furniture by Malmsten. Suddenly, furniture by Malmsten was spread to homes all over Sweden and were affordable not only for the upper class. Furniture stores around the country were soon filled with furniture like Samsas, Herrgården and Farmor. And now let's take a look at some of these furniture.
1957, Malmsten bought the old farm Kapellagården on the Swedish island Öland. Using the royalties from his furniture, a school was built. In 1958, the first summer courses were held at Kapellagården, and some years later, winter courses were also introduced. The students lived together as a huge family on the farm and was taught all kinds of traditional crafts. The economic reality was tough, and Malmsten resigned as a principal after a few years, but the school still exists today.
Yeah, you can visit it and you can buy the things they are producing there.
Can't you study there?
Yeah, yes, of course you can if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Malmsten turned 80 in December of 1968. And to celebrate this, the exhibition Rot och Krona, Root and Crown, was held at Liljevalchs Art Hall the following year. And this came to be his last large exhibition, and in a way it was a final account of his long career as a designer. And 3 years later, in the fall of 1973, Carl Malmsten died from cancer at the age of 84. And he was buried at the Vickleby cemetery on the island Öland.
Yeah.
And this was an introduction to Carl Malmsten, and if you haven't heard about him, Google him, because you can see a lot of his furniture. And I prefer the things he made in the 20s, this with the wooden inlays and exclusive things. Yeah. But if you liked this video,
please click thumbs up and subscribe.
And follow us on Instagram, of course. We are called Scandinavian Design 101.
Yes, thank you for watching.
Thank you.